Then that's exactly why many small businesses don't do it, partly because there is a very clear difference between sales and business development. I've actually taken major account business development methodologies and principles, which all big accounts, a big pharma company, a big manufacturer, will have major account specialists on staff.
Mm-hmm.
I've scaled it back. But you can also see why I'm so popular with small and mid-sized firms. Because it's true, most mid-sized firms don't take the risk of going after a big firm, a big company as a client, partly because they know it's going to be a long sales cycle and it's going to be complex. And if they haven't lived inside of that environment themselves, and many consultants, by the way, come out of large firms, so they have some notion of how a decision gets approved inside of a business, a large firm.
Some notion, but they're not often a sales type. They're a subject matter
Precisely.
expert. Yeah.
Precisely. And they don't like doing the sales and the business development and what can be to them a smarmy experience. So when I work with business owners, I know that they are the subject matter experts, and in the process, the development process, which goes through many stages. If you think about a buying process for yourself, you know, you don't wake up just one morning just because someone has knocked on your door with some new idea and say, well, yes, we should go out and see this. So it takes some time during the buying process, and I know that the business owner, being the subject matter expert, they should be in a situation where it's a peer-to-peer conversation. In other words, I do the rest of the, do you have the budget? Where might this fit in? What are the bigger business issues you might want to solve with this kind of a service when I'm acting on behalf of a client? But I'm able to then feature, after we go through that discovery exploration process with the people inside of a business who might be potential clients for the company I'm serving at that moment, that business owner will be most effective when they are meeting with somebody else who understands what they do. They don't want to be there talking about the high level, business climate issues. That's not what they're interested in doing. It's not where their strengths are. So matching them up at the right moment in the buying cycle, not the sales cycle, which is what we do, but the buying cycle on the other side of the table, matching that subject matter expert up with their in-house experts is where
that's where the magic happens.
Yes, but if you don't have the funding and you don't have a potential business problem that this consulting firm, for example, can help solve, there will be no further discussions. And if I don't eliminate all of that static and interference, the subject matter experts' conversations generally don't yield a contract.
That's really interesting. And you talk about the sales cycle and you talk about the buying cycle. And they're really kind of the same thing, but are you advocating that people who are selling forget about the sales cycle and start putting their minds in the mindset of their potential customers? In other words, think about the buying cycle of your potential client?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I have experienced a difference between the sales cycle, which is about where I want to be if I'm selling, and the messages I want to send. So that's a very me-oriented procedure. The difference between the sales cycle, and I need to know where we are during that process, absolutely, or you won't bring the right materials and the right players to the table. But the buying cycle, by contrast, is what the psychology of the various individuals, because remember, this is a complex, not one individual saying a yes. There's a green light or a go, no-go situation for each individual in and around that decision. So, for instance, there may be suppliers who would be affected if your firm were hired. They're an influencer. There may be in-house experts, if you're retained, would have to say, yeah, they're right, or what they do is appropriate here. So the buying cycle is not just a combination of the different individuals and where they are in saying yes, no, go, no go, but where the trajectory is overall toward the general movement towards a contract definition.
That's all very interesting, but